Hi everyone. So today I wanted to talk about my first week of online learning with my students and what went really well in my class during our online time and some things that didn't go so well or I will not be repeating. So this video is primarily going to be for teachers that are also teaching online, but I was thinking about it and you could easily adapt this if you are in person. You could easily play a lot of these games and all of the things that went really well, you could probably do in your in-class as well. So credit where credit is due. I got a lot of my teacher games that I played online with my students from a wonderful YouTuber called Pocketful of Primary. So if you don't already know about her, if you don't already follow her, I highly recommend that you go over to her channel and you follow her. She has like 470,000 subscribers as of right now. But I feel like as teachers, we should be uplifting each other and especially during these times, we should be uplifting each other. So I value everything that she has to say and I recommend a lot of the things that she has to say. And I did get a lot of my games from her, so definitely credit where credit is due, Pocketful of Primary. So this week was our first week of online learning together, and I decided after watching Pocketful of Primary, I decided to have a very slow start with my students. I took everything very slowly, mostly for myself as a teacher, beginning the year online, but also for my students. I didn't want to overwhelm them. I didn't want to, hit the ground running. I just wanted to slowly get them comfortable with what our days are going to look like. And that involved a lot of games. We played a ton of games, especially on the very first day. I had the luxury of knowing about half of my class. I teach 3-4 online. I have 10 grade 3 students and 15 grade 4 students. And I know all of my grade 4 students because I taught them all last year. The grade 3 students I don't know. And so I'm a new teacher to them and they're new students to me. So I wanted to really take the time to get to know them. So taking some suggestions from Pocketful of Primary, I scheduled a lot of community building games and getting to know you games. So that was one thing that worked extremely well. The kids were super happy, they were excited, they were engaging, and it was a really good way to softly introduce the concepts of turning your microphone on and off, which they should have known already from spring. Again, turning your video cameras on and off and using the raise hand feature in Microsoft Teams. 4 games that worked extremely well for me in online learning was Hangman. Kids absolutely loved it. Mystery Bag, where you have something hidden in your bag and the students can only ask you yes or no questions. They loved that game. Finish That Tune, we played on Friday, and I think I'm actually going to do that game every single Friday. So we'll do like Finish the Tune Friday. Where I played a couple songs and then I would pause it and the kids would have to type the lyrics in the chat feature, which was another really good skill that they have to learn. Some of them didn't even know that we had a chat feature in Microsoft Teams, so that was really awesome. And we played a game called Turn Your Camera On If. So turn your camera on if you love pizza. And then the kids would turn their cameras on to show everybody. So those were 4 really, really good games that we played during the week. And then there were 2 that kind of flopped. One especially that completely flopped, and I will not be playing that game again. The game was This or That, and basically I made a slideshow, and I would put up 2 choices on the slideshow, and the students would have to move to that side of their video camera, depending on if they liked, or depending on their preference. But a couple things I didn't realize was if I'm in present mode, I can't see anybody's video cameras. And if I am presenting just the window and I only have one student's video showing, then I only get to see that one student. So it very quickly morphed to, okay, if somebody would like to share with the class what their preference would be, please let me know. So then I would have a couple students chosen and they would share with the group. So yeah, that's probably not a game that I'm going to play again with my students. Another game also is Scavenger Hunt. So I have a lot of students that really, really like scavenger hunts, and then I have some that just don't really care to play. And I make it optional. I say, if you just want to sit back and watch, you don't have to play. But at the same time, I wish that all my students would enjoy playing the game, so I don't think I'm going to play that again because it doesn't really interest a lot of my students. And another issue was that the first person to bring it back on camera would get the point, but I'm only allowed to see 9 students at a time. And so then, we tried to add in the rule where you have to turn your camera on, turn your microphone on, and say I have the item, but then it just got to be really hectic and really crazy. And the kids that speak more often, their cameras are on more often. So that game just seems to be too big of a hassle. The other games that I played, Hangman, Mystery Bag, Finish That Tune, and Turn Your Camera On game, those ones worked pretty seamlessly, and I'm going to continue those games throughout the year. So those were 4 games that worked really well, 2 games not so well. The first couple days, so moving on to the second item, is the first couple of days on Teams, I did pretty much the whole day we were on Teams live. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to do a gradual release of responsibility. So the very, very first day, we were on from 8:45 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. We were on the whole day. I actually gave them longer recess and lunch breaks just because it was our first day online, and it was a lot. So, but we talked about expectations and online etiquette and where you can find certain items, and it was a soft start, but like I said, the whole day was pretty much on Teams. And then the second day, again, the whole day was virtually on Teams, on live, but then I would maybe let them go for an activity. And then I would say, let's meet back in 15 minutes, or let's meet back in half an hour after your activity is done, and then we would talk about that. And then Thursday was a short day. We only had half a day. And that was the first day that I wanted to release the day to them, meaning I wanted them to self-pace. So I showed them where they could find the slides. I showed them where they click to get the lessons, and where do you get the assignments in Google Classroom. And so we started at 9 a.m. and I let them go on their own until about lunchtime. But I do remember having to call one class meeting spontaneously. I had to call them around 10:30 just to explain something. But that is something that worked really well, was the gradual release of responsibility. So again, Thursday was our first day of kind of like letting the kids self-pace. And then Friday, we did the whole day self-paced, but I would be calling students and checking in and saying, okay, it's 9 o'clock. You should be kind of doing language arts right now. Or, it's 1 o'clock. You should be working on your journals, that kind of thing. So gradually releasing responsibility was something that worked extremely well. Taking into consideration, though, that there are going to be students that need a lot more direction. And so I did have a handful of students who jumped around and wanted to complete the last lesson first, or they didn't know they were supposed to be done this before moving on to the next activity. So that's going to take a little bit of time for them to understand that there's a gradual progression of the lessons. But we'll get into that next week some more. So the third thing that worked really well for me for online learning is the fact that I did have a slow start. I did purposefully not teach any curriculum this last week. Yes, there's curriculum in community building games, and we did prayers and language arts activities, watching stories. I mean, there is curriculum happening, but there wasn't any sort of like assessments happening. I wanted it to go slow. I wanted to take the time to get to know my students, and I wanted them to get to know me. So we also did a lot of personal activities like, create a vision board, or dress up your name on this slide, or, introduce yourself and things that are interesting about you on Flipgrid. So I'm really happy that I scheduled that kind of a slow start for the week, but also for myself as a teacher jumping into online learning, it was a lot easier to be ready for the week because I knew that it was a lot slower of a start. So, and a little bit of a side note, because I had a slow start and I would do activities, fun activities like create a visual board or do your digital name art, it was also a little bit of a check-in to see which one of my students knows how to change the font, change the background color, insert an image, because there were a lot of kids that still didn't know how to do that. So I'm glad I did that slowly. And the last thing that I think made for a very successful first week of online learning was that I decided to take the time and introduce one new tech tool, app, extension a day. So I really took the time to show the kids where you find it, what you use it for, and so on. So first day, Google Classroom, Google Sites. I introduced those two sites for them because we're going to be using those primarily every day for our online learning. And then the next day, I introduced them to Flipgrid. So where's the website? Here's the class code. Here's your first response. So the next day we did Flipgrid. And then on the fourth day, I introduced them to some key websites. And like, for example, our religion website, which was crazy because the HTML, the URL code that I gave them was not linked properly. And so I was getting tons of tech problems. And you guys, I'm not even joking, I spent an hour trying to troubleshoot this problem. And it was an hour I will never get back out of my day. But I'm glad that we figured it out last week, because now jumping into the next week of online learning, we won't have that issue. So I'm glad we figured that out. And then on Friday, right before the weekend, we also introduced a new Chrome extension called Cami. That took us about 45 minutes to figure that out as well, because a lot of students had never downloaded a Chrome extension before. So one more thing that I wanted to mention about something that didn't go well in my class is just expect that some of your technology is not going to work, and to always have some sort of a backup activity, backup game, backup lesson. Because like I said, when we were having issues with the religion, I wasn't expecting that because it was working for me, and I didn't realize that the student domain wasn't working. So just be mindful of that. But also keep in mind, logins, student passwords, student accounts, things like that. Like, there's bound to be an issue with a class full of students. There's bound to be a problem. And if there isn't, then hooray. But my advice to you is there are students in your class that are tech experts. They just seem to understand technology better than most kids. And I have one of those kids in my class, and I am so grateful for his help, because I had to go off for supervision and I still had 5 kids that did not download the Cami extension. When I came back from my supervision, I'm not even joking, that student called me and said, I took care of it. I called those 5 students and I helped them download it, and they are good to go. And what a relief for me to not have to worry about that. So definitely utilize those tech experts in your class. And the last piece of advice that I have from my successful first week of online learning is I would definitely plan a portion of your day at the end of the day to have no plans. And the reason for that is this is your time of day that you can check in with students, where you can call them. Or if they didn't get a chance to finish their activity for the day, I would recommend scheduling 15, 20 minutes at the end of the day where there's no plans. But this is where they can finish any work that's outstanding. Or if you're having tech problems, you can just say, you know what, let's just skip that lesson for now. And at the end of the day, at 2:30 or whatever it is, you can go back to that activity and hopefully we've sorted it out. So that would be my piece of advice. Now, if you have things running smoothly and there's no issues, then maybe you could just, plan for the full length of the day. But personally for me, I have left the last 30 minutes of every day kind of lesson free, and I call it supplementary time. And basically any kids that have any extra or outstanding items, this is the time of day that they would complete it, and they know that I am 100% available at that time if they need to call me. So yeah, those are all the things that have worked really well for me for online learning. I hope some of that was helpful for you guys. Like I said, if you haven't already checked out Pocketful of Primary, definitely go give her a shout out or a like, because that's where I got a lot of my ideas from. And yeah, I wish you all the best of luck as you journey into online learning, and let me know how it's going for you. I would love to know what's going well for you guys as well, or I would love to know if you've had any hiccups so that I could learn from them as well. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.